Yeah. Okay, who wants to go first to check in for us?
For us, the new ones, what are we supposed to do? Maybe if you can give us a little crash course. So
Don't worry, you will just find yourself in part of the of the process. We will acknowledge. We're still going to acknowledge you, brother Romeo. Seha wants to check in with all the three components. You just follow Romeo.
All the three. I was gonna check in with one.
Okay, then you have to wait.
Yeah.
Which one you want to check in with?
With the body.
Okay, who wants to check in with all the three? I only see smiles. Silence is also good, yeah?
I'm confused. What are we doing? How are we checking in? We're checking in with each other.
One person is going to check with body, mind, and spirit.
Okay.
And then the other three, one checks with the body, another one checks with the mind, another one checks with the spirit.
Okay.
So there are 4 people who are checking in for us.
Something. Let's see if I get it right. So I choose one of those?
Yeah. We want the one who's checked with all the 3 first.
Okay.
This is Sydney. Brother Sam, can I just check?
Check in, Brother Sydney.
Yes. My mind, I think that I'm very much revitalized. I feel very much, my mind is very, very much transformed. I've gone through a lot of things today, but I must say that I am ready to take whatever it is that will be discussed now. And then in terms of the body, I feel very strong. I've done some training in the morning. Though with COVID, I developed some big stomach, but I'm very determined to work very hard to keep myself physically fit. Spiritually, I'm very much moving in the Holy Ghost. I've just come from a memorial service of one of our colleagues at Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, who passed on. So I'm very much, spiritually motivated, as I've encouraged a whole lot of people there to be conscious of themselves spiritually, and they've received the word of God. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Brother Sydney. Seha?
Okay, I'll check in with the body. And yeah, Janae, as you can see, I'm alive and I'm energetic, not too tired, not too, So I'm feeling great and fully present to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. So that was with the body. Wants to check with the mind. What thoughts are occupying your mind right now? And how are you dealing with those thoughts? Whoever is checking in with the mind.
Mr. Tsema, it's Posete.
Hi, Captain.
I greet you all this evening here in South Africa. I know we are globally connected or universally connected. In terms of what's currently been clouding my mind, of which I think, as we highlighted earlier, there's been interacting with people who are in other continents. The challenge of COVID has been with the announcements which we are intending to hear from our president. I can tell you from the feedback which I've been getting from other colleagues from other continents, it's the stats are not looking good. So we mentally, it's something which we don't know in the coming week if the country will be closed in terms of already what we wanted to salvage for this year, whether it's business, whether it's in terms of our economy. It's quite a challenge. Everyone, there's an ease in the environment. So mentally, I'm getting ready to be able to prepare myself for what will our president, with his wisdom, he can be able to give us in terms of the announcement. Mm-hmm. We have taken almost 6 months of the previous announcement, so we'll see going forward what is it in store for us. That's what has been clouding my mind, and looking forward to this course as well. In terms of yes.
Thank you, Captain. That was the mind spiritually. Janae, you wanted to do something.
I did. I can do spiritually. I feel hopeful, and I guess it's relevant to say spiritually, but in the best interest of time, the craziness that we have going on here in the States with the transition or the counting of the votes. Every day I'm talking to people. I have friends that are Trump supporters and friends that are Biden supporters, and the spiritual part is to just be able to pull back and just be calm and be able to take in information without getting so emotional about it. I've been explaining to some of my friends that I'm talking to on either side, when they call, it's like they just watched something on TV and then they're like, can you believe what he said? Can you believe what he said? But both sides sound exactly the same. They're crazy for voting like that. They're crazy for voting like that. So, just spiritually, just being able to be hopeful, we'll get through this as our country and, your country and in the world, that we'll get through this. So I'm feeling like there is a shift happening. Whatever happens here, that God will prevail us through and that we'll be okay. So everything is to God's glory, and to trust and have hope and faith in God, and that we will subside and do what we need to do for us to all get through this global pandemic. So that's where I am.
We wish you well with the challenges over there. Yeah. Good. We are 12 of us. We hope to get some more people joining us. Let's give the opportunity to those who are joining for the first time just to introduce themselves. But to simplify it for them, I'm going to ask one of you who has introduced himself or herself last time, just do a quick intro, and then we'll allow Brother Romeo and Brother Joe to introduce themselves. Who wants to give them a demo introduction? Okay, I'll go for them. Brother Romeo, in few ways, just introduce yourself to the community here.
Thank you so much. The beautiful thing is that most of you are not strangers to me, so I already feel like home. It's good to see Sydney, and I've known Brasem for many years, and we've done work together in the space of coaching, motivation, and by brief background, I come from radio, TV, both on screen and off screen, from the production perspective, copywriting, and professionally work with, I'm in the education sector, looking at the innovation and the technology, working with academia as part of my consulting job. And lastly, I'm an author as well, published author, but I do self-publishing around motivation, life coaching, business, and relationships. Thank you.
Beautiful. We are looking forward to your contribution, and I was actually laughing. I said, "Yo, this is how lucky we are. We have such media practitioners like you, and we feel very much honored." Please, if you feel like switching off your video because it's eating too much data, please feel free to do so. I'm going to switch off mine now because I need to attend to something while I'm also talking. But please, I'm with you. I'm not totally going off. Brother Joe, you come a long way with commerce. I'm sure people want to know who is Brother Joe Masinya. Introduction, my brother. You are muted, Brother Joe. Mike, you can come. You are muted, Joe. We can't hear you. You are on mute. Let me see if I can unmute him. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, all right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lisibana Johannes Masinya. I'm one of the few first members of Cometa Group of Companies and Cometa Goldstone Football Club in general. So in short, I was born in the province of Limpopo, Mukopane, the small town of Mukopane. I'm working into the kitchen unit field as a kitchen installer and the granite installer as well for the tables. And I'm also a writer in one of the South African languages, which is Sepedi. I'm a novelist and a poet. I'm happy to be here at Comesa to join you, ladies and gentlemen. That's my short, brief summary.
Thank you very much, Brother Joe. Yes, indeed, it has been a long journey, and I'm glad to see you in the group. Yes, let's just reflect on the first module. Do you still remember what we have covered in the first module? Anyone who wants to give a reflection on what we covered in the first module before we proceed? And I'm going to choose few of you because I think you have got some pointers to make. You have looked at the agenda. I've got an agenda with me. I've shared that agenda with you. But obviously it's going to be challenged by the announcement by the president on top of the hour. We'll just take a short break and see how we manage it. Captain, just quickly share with us what do you recollect from the first module without going into details because we don't want to sit on it. We have it on podcast. Buset.
Thank you so much. It was an introduction to all the relevant modules which we'll be covering on these sessions. And we further looked at how you can be able to plan, starting from planning your show, some of the critical things which you have to really look at when you are preparing for a show. And we looked at a few components, though we're not in detail, in terms of the preparation which is required, and the intense in terms of having to ensure that your audience and introducing yourself to your audience, giving them time to be able to speak, ensuring that you are fully engaged, and even your listeners are fully engaged. Ensuring that you introduce some of from your guest, good introduction of your guest, ensuring that you introduce yourself and the show and what you represent as Cometsa, of which we have a jingle now for Cometsa, which you don't have to do that. And even introducing ourselves from the team, that was one of the things which we have done. I don't want to go further.
Wonderful. Jine, you want the permission to record? I'm trying to see where I can allow you to record. I'm not seeing it on here.
Okay, because when I hit the record button, it says, please ask the host to give you permission to record. A little box comes up, so I can't record until then.
Okay, let's go to show. I thought it will pop up with something which I say, yes, you are able to, but...
Yeah, it doesn't look like it sends you a message, so that's why I did the check.
Yeah, it did not do that. And let's see. Yeah, sure. I don't know how to do it. I'm being challenged.
Oh, okay. I don't want to take up the time on it.
Okay.
But then I won't be able to record it. I don't know if it helps to... I don't know if you can make two people host at the same time, and then that would do it. That may do it too. I'm not sure, but if you want to record,
yeah. Anyway,
all right.
Let's proceed. Sorry about that. Okay, great stuff. So, thank you, Captain, for reflecting on that. We have had a number of us hosting shows, and there's been quite a lot of experiences that we have made. But I want us to just reflect on the roles that various role players are playing, especially for those who have played, have hosted the shows. Especially when it comes to the role of a host and a co-host. We're going to spend some time on that. And then also the roles that we expect the guests to play in the show, and make sure that we really clearly understand these roles. I must say that as I was observing the shows, it was clear that quite a number of people that had not participated in the previous show, previous lecture, there were some of the things that we addressed during the first lecture that were playing themselves in the shows. And I felt that people who have not attended the first lecture, it will be helpful that they go back and just revisit that first lecture, because remember the first lecture, we covered all the aspects that we are going to go into details as we proceed. Let me talk a little bit about what I see as the key roles of the host and the broadcaster. And you will share with me you will comment on that if I'm hitting it on the spot. The host is almost like the owner of the show, working in partnership with the office to make sure that the whole show's objective is being achieved. Now, that means that the host has the responsibility to identify, number one, the guests. The host has the responsibility to agree or identify the topic that the guest is going to be addressing at the show. And then at the same time, request the office to officially invite the guest to the show. Once the guest has been invited and the guest has accepted, the host is expected to sit or engage with the host to prepare the host for the show. Now, the preparation can mean many things. First, logistically, in terms of the host or the guest understanding what needs to happen for them to be ready to be in the show. For instance, the fact that they will be given a link that takes them into our virtual studio, and they will be given a link that sort of like is used to test the connectivity of the host. Yeah. Secondly, the host has the responsibility to almost prepare the guest in imagining what is going to happen when they are in the studio and how is the conversation going to be conducted and how is the subject going to be tackled. Now, once the host and the guest have agreed, we expect that the host and the guest become partners in planning for the show. Meaning that some guests are actually experienced to a point that they actually can almost lead you if you allow them to. If I take an example of the show we had with Ndadebona Mohale, he was almost very much participating in giving the show a direction. And I think that was quite very helpful because then the flow of the show was very enjoyed. But also the connection with the host themselves was quite very good. So sometimes a matter of luck, sometimes it's because of how you went all out in preparing the guest. The other role, which is very important of the host, is to prepare the co-host. Yeah, to plan with or to prepare the co-host. And as you are going to be giving us feedback, I'm sure this is going to come out because we have had situations where sometimes a host gets lost and the co-host is then left alone with the guest. And if the co-host has not been part of the planning, it becomes a dilemma because now the co-host came in and anticipating that they are going to take a cue from the host, but then all of a sudden the host got cut and you are left with the guest, and we as a production team, we now expect you to take the lead because you're supposed to guide the process. Yeah. So let me go back to other responsibilities of the host which happened earlier in advance, and that is we as the production team, we don't know your guests better than you do, so we expect you to also provide us with a profile that helps us to position the show in terms of social media publishing. But also the other objective of that is that we don't know who is going to come back and request that we connect them with the host. We therefore expect that even if you know the guest very well, you still give us the profile of the guest because this platform is an ecosystem and we want it to be used to also give our guests access to the ecosystem. So don't say that I know this guest, I don't need his profile. We do need that profile so that we can also multiply them in terms of them being part of the ecosystem. Yeah. The other important responsibility of the host is you need to give us the guests' contact numbers, especially the mobile number and the email address, because all our invitations that go out to our guests, they go out in the form of an email, and then we direct that email to the guest because it's only professional that the station writes to the guest on your behalf And of course, we quote the fact that the guest has been recommended to us by you as a host because you have a relationship with them. I think that is very powerful because that some of these guests, their companies expect them to participate in programs like this. It becomes an evidence to their companies that they are not inviting themselves, they are actually being invited by a platform like us, and therefore that is a recognition to the role they play in the society. Some companies are very strict to a point where that they want to receive a letter or that invitation. In some instances, like with Ndadebonang, for instance, he doesn't get involved at all in any administrative or logistical matters. He has got his own dedicated office manager who will want to have evidence that this thing is real, it's coming from a real organization, who will then go on our behalf and brief Ndadebonang in this case, or whoever the guest is. So that's why it's very important that we formalize this. I know some of you have had to organize things in the last minute, and sometimes we shortcut these protocols, which are very important, not only for us, but for your guests and the setup where they're coming from. Yeah. But once you have handed over the guest to us, we do the rest. We also expect you to almost shadow the host until the guest arrive in the studio. Shadowing means that being in touch with them, checking that nothing is changing, and updating Michael in the office so that you know for sure that the guest is going to be available. And what we also do, which we do in combination with you and the guest, is to set up what we call a test link. We have learned very fast that internet streaming radio stations depend very much on the connectivity. And a number of times where we never did the test link connectivity, we get shocked, get surprised that when they are supposed to come in, and only then we experience the problem of connectivity, because sometimes the reason for lack of for challenges with connectivity is not even the network, it's just that their setup where they are is not properly adjusted, and then you spend the first minutes of the show trying to troubleshoot the connectivity. And what I've observed, and Michael and I have observed, is when you have promoted your show very well, like Ingrid and Maynard did yesterday, their show was very well marketed. 5 to the start of the show, the numbers of audience shot up. And then if you struggle the first 5 minutes, it goes down like it's nobody's business, and sometimes those guests don't come back. So we have now become very sensitive to the fact that we need to make sure that we don't lose guests in the first 5 minutes because we are struggling to connect. So that is very, very important. It can actually determine the success and the failure of a show. Yeah, so those are the inputs that I want to share with you from the practical experience. Other than that, we also learned that we have no control over the quality of your environment where you are tuning in from as a host of the show. In many cases, there's a lot of movement around you, there's a lot of sound around you. We can hear it, and I think that is one of the points that you need to manage very well in terms of you as a show's role. But now, let me say that the same responsibilities of the host I've shared with you. Those of you who have already identified permanent co-host or standing co-host, I would like to say that they must also play that role with you, especially when it comes to the day of the show, because it could happen that you are delayed somehow, or it could happen that you are struggling to connect, and then the co-host then step in and actually take charge of your show. The other point I want to mention is that we were initially worried about the number of people who are tuning into your show. We also want you to keep in mind that don't be focusing too much on the number of the people that are live on your show. What we are interested in is that make sure that the quality of your show is such that your podcast is going to go viral when you post it, because we do get to see a lot of people downloading your show on the basis of the quality of the show. So those are the pointers I want to share with you. I don't know any one of you want to comment on that, but I also don't want to spend time on that because we are going to talk in detail that. Mr. Masinya, are you with us?
Yes, Professor. Yeah,
All right.
I'm listening, sir.
All right.
I'm around here. I'm listening.
Okay, lovely. Great stuff. Any comment?
No. Anyway, I've already listened to Brazil.
Okay, sorry, just hold on, Dr. Masinya. I'm just asking anybody else to comment. You want to comment on the point? I just want those who have been in the previous show that they've host show just to quickly comment on that one, if you don't mind.
Okay, all right, no, it's fine.
All right. And guys, if you are not talking, just mute yourself. And you also don't, if you don't mind, you can just also put your screen off if you don't mind, because then at least the quality of the audio is good.
Okay, all right.
Great stuff. Anyone who wants to comment on the points I've raised in terms of the roles and responsibility of the host?
Yes, Patrick,
Yes.
how are you?
Or rather you. Please, just those who are not talking, just mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything else that you touched on is pretty much is spot on. I think one other point that I just want to add to, I think in the beginning there was a lot of anxiety and uncertainty on these things, and the panic and a whole lot of us went. We gotta be ready, whether we should be ready or whatever the stuff like that. But I'm glad to say the monkeys of our concentration levels are a little bit higher now and prepared. But I don't think we did that much bad. Well, speak for myself. But even the other shows that I listened, the percentage was obviously we don't need, but the error percentage was minimal. I believe we can do better.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're going to come back to maybe Pat when you are still just note that pre-work that we asked you to do. When we come back to your own assessment evaluation, if you can just go a little bit deeper on that in terms of what did you do together with your co-hosts to achieve the quality of your hosting of the show. Divesh, I see you have got your hand up. Divesh?
Thank you, Sam. Good evening, colleagues. Just in terms of the discussion we're having, I've been wondering, there's a distinction between the broadcasts we're doing and a show that would have interactive listeners. And I would have expected that it's different kind of animal in terms of preparation. Now, in terms of the challenges, I've listened to a few of the shows, and I did notice a lot of the challenges had pertained to connectivity, loss of connectivity, not being able to listen or hear people audibly. Does our shows need to be live? Do we need to not maybe pre-record them and then advertise them for slots? Because we're not interacting with listeners directly. Does it have to be live shows?
Good question.
Because we can control the quality much better if we pre-record the shows and then broadcast them, on certain advertised, marketed slots.
Good question.
Thank you.
All right, Sam.
Yes, Abel.
Yeah, but as you said to Patrick, that we will delve more into our personal experiences. I wouldn't want to go deep to what we experienced yesterday, but I think the dynamics of technology vis-a-vis co-hosting made us aware that there is a need for collaborations amongst us as a team, and just to add to what the previous speaker said, sometimes when people get to listen to a live session, a live radio session or a live conference and things like that, to them it makes more impact because they feel that their time to take a moment and listen is something that is happening real and the dynamics that are happening there are also, enhancing the understanding. If it's a pre-recorded play, yes, as per podcast, it will have the same intake of those that download the podcast. But I think the mix of live and later people tapping into the podcast, it's a good mix that we may consider, not necessarily that I'm saying pre-recording and playing later at predetermined times may not enhance the quality and may not give us an opportunity to deal with some of the dynamics of technology, connectivity, networks, and whatever that we go through. But with two parties involved, and as we improve our system, in terms of your core, I think we'll be able to achieve more in terms of now driving this force. When we are alive, so when we are alive, it keeps pressure on you.
Yes.
And if you think, no, this is just pre-recorded, so whatever mistake that I do, it can be rectified, and therefore you are not going to be sometimes in your element to create an impression, to create engagement that you think, to be able to buy followers to your show, and to make sure that people, whenever they say there's a scheduled, live streaming of a particular show and a particular topic and whatever, people will come back, because people sometimes prefer certain topics or certain dynamics that happen in a live show.
Great stuff. Absolutely. And I think Divesh has asked quite a very important question. However, you have answered it very well in the sense that the objective of the platform is exactly that, to learn to deal with the pressure of being in a live show, but also to learn to deal with the dynamics and the pressure of the internet streaming radio station. It has its own dynamics. And I think the other point is that we must not forget the objective of our 14 months series is actually exactly there to develop that. And it will be very interesting to hear from Brother Romeo as an expert in the media space or broadcasting space. What is your take on that, Brother Romeo?
Thank you so much, Mr. Tima. I think there should be a blend. I think there should be a blend of the two, because I think what Abel and Divesh are saying, they would make sense. I mean, if you are launching, you look at the bigger brand to say, Cometa, for example, I mean, obviously I speak uninformed. Cometa actually blow and talk about the brand radio. Cometa Radio does, the world know that Cometa number one does the radio. So what is our drive in terms of promoting the visibility of our, of the subsidiary called radio station or digital radio station? That's number one. And number two, it's really the issue of saying, with digital radio, it's really the issue of timing. So if, let's say, my show is on a Sunday at 2, and I need to map the competition, who am I competing against? If I'm competing against a Metro FM, because Central just came on from 3 to 6, how effective would my show be in terms of attendance? And what did I do prior to the show starting to kind of like lobby people to attend the shows? Because obviously there's the bigger brand that looks at marketing the radio slot or the radio itself. And then there's the slots for us as presenters to come and say, I know I've got a big following on social media. This is how I'm going to promote it. Do I promote and saying I'm now with Cometa Radio, or do I promote more the content that I will be covering? So just to cut it short, I think the Divesh is raising a very, very important issue to say part of the growth would be protect Cometa at all costs. Because if we have all these technical glitches and cosmetic errors, it doesn't. I can easily just leave the brand, but then the brand suffers back. So as an individual, all the mistakes that I'm making on the show, they contribute to the bigger brand, and then the brand suffers more than I do, because I can simply just go say, oh, sorry, internet, South Africa. But the Cometa brand is taking the norm. Tomorrow, Cometa goes to ICASA and saying, we are ready for a license, and then they look at the mistakes that the Romeo did, but the Romeo is no longer with Cometa.
Wonderful.
And then you find that the brand loses the license because of those mistakes.
Yeah.
No longer. So I think the bigger picture should be, whatever happens, I am representing Cometa, and whatever that I do must protect the brand Cometa. I don't know if that makes sense. So just to wrap it up, if I'm not, I've never been on radio before, perhaps the issue of recording, and then use that to kind of like gain support, get people to listen, and build up an audience, and then go live.
Thank you.
A couple of shows, especially seasoned professionals, get them to actually do the live shows. And then kind of like build up from there. So it should be a blend of the two.
I hear you, brother Romeo. Let me just take you back to the objective. Everything that you have said is 100% perfect, and what DJs has said is 100% perfect. However, Cometa is a human capital development organization, and we are very intentional about running a training platform for internet radio stations. So we will be deviating from the objective of what we are doing. That's why we put together a 14-month training program. And we are maybe what we are not being obvious in the live shows is to tell people that we are developing a capability among ourselves as professionals in terms of introduction of internet radio stations. There shouldn't be too much worry about the Cometa brand when it comes to the cliches, because we have clearly defined the objective of this program is to develop people talent and skill. Maybe we need to be very clear in promoting our shows that we are using this to train people on the go, the adult learning route. It will not serve the purpose to bring seasoned professionals to come and broadcast, because then we are not developing. I don't know whether I'm clear. Anybody wants to overemphasize, but points taken.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, when I say professionals, I'm talking about within the group, not...
Oh, I see.
You know the people that are already doing very well. Like you talk about Brasitni, he's good with, so just to, not to pick on anyone, but use the people that they are developing inside that are already getting it.
Absolutely, you have got. That is what I like, because as we proceed, people are going to become experienced, and then we'll make sure that those people But otherwise, each one of them, they are running their own show. Sikha, you want to say something? They are running their own shows as their own enterprise. That includes also troubleshooting the challenge they have. Sikha, come on.
Okay, for me, I think the learning from that is that ability. I know we have a central management in terms of when we're online and offline. I feel during that show, if I'm communicate with my co-host, because sometimes if like you're out of ideas or you're about to panic, you should have that ability to mute yourself and reach out to your co-host and say, please chip in, as opposed to this dialogue of like, oh, Janae, what's happening? Come, save me. But that also speaks to the preparation. Obviously, if you and your co-host know each other very well, they're able to pick up when you're about to fall, that now I need to jump in and help save the show.
Wonderful.
So I think that functionality can go a long way if we're able to mute and communicate in the background. The show.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the dynamics of internet streaming radio. That's why we have the WhatsApp. We communicate in the background. But you are right, Sikha, if people have not prepared sufficiently, these things will show up. And we're not very much disturbed by that. That is for me very, very important that we just underline. I'm going to give Tembela the second. Are you done, Sikha?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I'm going to give Tembela a chance to talk, and then I will go into the pre-lecture work that we've asked you to do. But also we are mindful of the fact that we are going to be top of the hour, and you need to guide me what you suggest we do in terms of the presidency address. Tembela?
Evening, Mr. Tsima. Evening to all my colleagues in the group. I just have a quick question. When you covered the roles of that we are responsible for, I just wanted clarity in terms of the link to test the connectivity. When does that go out before the show? Because I think you've mentioned before that the link to the virtual studio, you send that like an hour before to the guest. Where does the testing of the connectivity happen?
The actual link for the actual virtual studio that goes as long as it's before the show starts. But the testing normally we do an hour before.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All clear.
Great stuff. I need guidance. Let's welcome those who join later after we had started. Mudikwe Pachani, welcome. Tlalane, welcome. Who else have I missed that joined later? Maynard, welcome. And then I saw Nokwanda. Welcome, Nokwanda.
Thank you.
Tendani, welcome. I need guidance, colleagues, very quickly before the 7 o'clock. There's an expression of interest to be given a break to listen to the president. But he's going to take almost an hour. So basically then we loosen the whole 1 hour of our program. My view is that you can always revisit the speech by the president later, but I'm in your hands. Anyone who wants to guide us there without spending too much time on it.
Well, my suggestion is maybe we'll listen to the family meeting with the president after. I think we can catch up on YouTube or something.
Okay. That was my suggestion as well, because otherwise then we're going to lose the whole evening. And we really have got the important points to discuss based on the pre-lecture work. This one is quite very clear. We're talking about people that have actually hosted shows. And I want us to really give them opportunity to be given feedback. But we'll start with them first giving us their own feedback. What did they think? Let's start with the very first colleague who started the very first show, Brother Sidney Hatebe. Share with the class on how you prepared for your first show. How did you prepare your guest? How best to prepare for it in the future? And give us your honest assessment of how you think you performed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, colleagues. It's a wonderful evening that we are in this training. And I would like to also say thank you so much. It's so nice to have my brother Romeo. It's so nice to hear that you'll be part of us. That's awesome. Just to go back, to be honest, I don't know anything about radio. And the presenting, it was my first experience. But I think what gave me confidence, I mean, in our first module, we spoke about preparation. So in the fellowship, what actually helped me most is that with our 3 hosts, on every Thursday, we pray together for 1 to 2 hours every Thursday. So, and we've been doing this for several weeks. So it gave me confidence because there is preparation that is already going on behind the scene before the show, and we also discuss about what we are going to talk about and how we position it. And I think it worked so well because at some point I was cut off, and at some point 2 incidences I had a problem of logging on as a host, but by grace of God, because we spoke and we prepared, the conversation was flowing, and when I logged in, I found that the conversation was going on because of the thorough work that has been done in the preparation.
Yes. So is that a standing arrangement that every Thursday when you pray together, you also discuss the show that you are hosting on Sunday?
So I think, I'm not sure that you can still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I think my experience is that on that particular show, is the point that you have mentioned, Brother Sam, just to say that it is important for us to be connected as even if co-hosts, and especially for your guests, and ensure that we will work throughout until the show happens. I've got a few suggestions as we were talking about. I mean, Brother Divesh, Abel, and Tembega and others who spoke. I'm just wanting to talk about the connectivity part, maybe as a I'm not sure what I'm diverting, brother, is to say that, you know, if we can be, because I'm new in the field, I don't know what kind of setup I need to have in order to have a quality sound. Sometimes I'm using the phone, sometimes I'm using the laptop, but I think that in a studio, there are certain standards that can be put in place for us to ensure that even our studios at home, they meet that standard. The mic that we use, and all of those kind of things. So I would really love if we can be given those speculations, and maybe we can invest, equipment to ensure that we've got the right, equipment for us to be able to at least, meet the standard. It can just be connectivity, but if all the other ones are covered, then it will be great. So yeah, and then I don't know whether
just hold on, Brother Sydney. Welcome, Tate Munakotla. You are welcome to just put your video off so that you just can hear the audio. Mr. Munakotla?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can put your video off. You don't have to be on video, at least as long as you can follow.
Can I put the video off?
Yeah, you can put your video off. It's fine. Yeah, carry on, Brother Sydney.
Stop video.
You can stop your camera, not video, sorry.
Stop camera.
Yeah, you can stop your camera, it's fine. Okay, carry on, Brother Sydney.
Yes, and then the other, when I go to the sports show, and I think we had a wonderful time with Coach and...
Hold on, I think Mr. Munakotla is struggling there. Is somebody helping you, Mr. Munakotla?
Yeah, just calling my wife. Because I wanted to stop the video.
Okay, I'm going to mute you now while you are talking. Okay. Yeah, carry on, Sydney.
Yes. Maybe just to also say that, when we talk of being a DJ, and that's why we have to learn from one another a lot. And I'm glad that we watching other. One of the things that actually helped me is that I also go in and listen to other shows and be able to learn from my colleagues. And I think that is also very important, because we can be able to learn from each other. But if we talk about the sports show where Captain and Coach Sima, we normally have briefing sessions before the show. We discuss about the content. Brother Romo actually mentioned a very important point to say, in terms of promoting the show, are we promoting the content or the radio? And I believe that it is important for us to, in order to increase the numbers, to also market other shows other than our own shows, so that we can be there in the social media and we can increase the numbers.
Yes.
By the time you introduce your own show, people. I mean, one point that we, in our discussion with Sam at some point that he advised me to do was that if you are in a social media, if you are not commenting and you are not getting yourself out there to edify other people's work, it will be difficult for people to come in and actually edify your own show. So I think it is important for us to be edifying one another, and that's what like for example the show that was happening today. Even though I was not part of the show, but I went into social media and there were a lot of responses of people, and even my CEO ended up being interested to say, no, I actually want to do this, and I also want my team to be involved in listening to this show. So one thing will lead to the other. But I think all in all, after the standard that we have actually set for ourselves with the sports team is that before we arrange, we talk about also the people that we are inviting, and we talk about also not talking about the same theme. Our show should be very unique, and though we are going to use maybe the same participants, because bringing the participant in the show it's already defining the objective of your show. But because of the different roles that our participants play, then as we bring them into the studio, already they are setting to achieve a certain objective. So as the three of us, then we sit down and say, okay, fine, what do we want to achieve with this particular person that we have invited in the show? So, and also in terms of us as co-hosts, asking the questions, we were not going to ask the questions that are going to divert from the objective of the show. So we talk about all those things to say what kind of questions do you want to ask? Are they relevant into the show? So we don't have to divert, but we have to be focused on ensuring that we don't lose audience by asking questions that are not relevant.
Absolutely.
So, and the other thing that also we've adopted is that after the show, we also go and revisit on what works well, on what didn't work well, and look at how we can actually improve, on that. Because on the next show, then we are conscious in terms of, what areas we need to be paying attention to, and ensure that we keep the other one standard, but we improve on the other one, and we can share ideas in terms of how we go about doing that. So I'll stop here for now, and I think my colleagues will also.
Yeah. Thank you very much for such detailed insights. Again, we are using the adult learning approach, which means we're learning by doing. So we must, and that's why I indicated that we are a human capital development platform. We are interested in the content, but we are also interested in the ability to manipulate the technology. So you are not going to get it right at the first time. As Sydney said, you are not going to have the right equipment at the first time. But you are going to learn to realize that you need to do something about it. Remember, one of the points we discussed on the first module was saying, Commercial Radio is a startup. It's an organization within Commercial GOC, but your show is an enterprise on its own. So we expect you to be creative about it as long as it's within the context of what we are doing. So what Sydney has just shared with you is to say that we can see the numbers on your show that whether you marketed it or you did not market it. Yes, Commercial will market it, but you still expected to use your own network because it's your network that will be interested to come and support you. Take it as your own enterprise. You are the associates of Commercial. You are the members of Commercial. We are giving you the platform to create an enterprise within an enterprise. And that is the point we are raising. But don't forget the fact that the purpose of the whole project for the next 14 months is to develop you. And you have to be part of the journey. You have to learn from your own mistakes. You have to ask other people to help you. You have other people to coach you, and so on and so on. So we are going to learn from each other from these best practices. Pat, you were the next two on the show. What did you do best to prepare yourself for the first show? I know that you didn't sleep, that I'm sure of. And you did share that with me. But what did you do?
You weren't supposed to tell people that I came to the office scared. Yeah, well, this is Patrick. My show is Then Culture is a Sunday night sport show. So when I checked, we realized that we've got quite a number of sports shows on the video, and then the first thing that we did was to speak with some of my colleagues to decide the direction which is gonna take going forward. And I decided that my sports show is going to be the development. And for those who know, I coach academy, so I'm very much in touch with the of football players and then I decided that maybe that's where I'm casting my energies on and make sure that I tap development. So the first thing to do my other colleagues that are going to be doing sports show, we develop our programs going forward, so we understand that we're not going to be confusing listeners by sharing the message into each other's programs and so forth. So then the next step that I needed to do, identify those people that will come onto the value in as far as the development of sport is concerned, and when they come to the show, what do they come to the show to do? Vis-a-vis what I expected, and I identified quite a number of that either legends of the game, either involved in the game and stuff like those, and they could have done at the time was to confuse them to the show to offer a development advice, development contribution, or come to the celebrated as stars and legends of the game. And consciously having discussed with the producer, with the colleagues, to be specific, Brad and Bosete, to say, because I had identified my show to be off development, even though I bring those kind of people, I must my core message that I'm going to be delivering through my program is that of, to give an example, we had on the last Sunday show, Banyana player, Miss Sibata, and when we're discussing with Miss Sibata, I said to her, in introducing you, like celebrating who you are and stuff like that, but your being to the show is to give inspiration to those young stars that are going through the journey of development, through the journey that you traveled, so that they can understand that there's a hope at the end of the tunnel. They can hear that you can start from humble beginning and achieve the possible that is available out there for you. So we then resolved and decided that Sunday culture show is going to be focused on development. But of important, we had to identify and set the tone for the rest of 14 months or so, or going forward into the future with regard. And what we immediately did was to bring somebody who is an academic and is in the deep research of sports, art, and culture, and his involvement. So we then invite a doctor from Tshwane University of Technology, Dr. Gubai, and that on its own set a very strong tone forward, and it was good that to find Dr. Gubai. The same day that we had Dr. Gubai, we also had Innocent Mayoyo, who is practically involved in the development of sports, football to be specific, and have him coming in onto the show to challenge or practical development, while Dr. Gubai is giving from a research view. So we were able to correlate the two and give a picture of how the show is going to look like going forward, what we stick to, and so that was very important to identify the purpose of the show going forward, and then the other colleagues that are doing other sports show will then focus on of the sports and art and culture going forward as well. So that was very important.
Great stuff. So basically what you are saying, Pat, is that you saw that you have so many similar programs and you've come together, you've created a community of presenters around sports, art and culture, and you have made sure that you are not duplicating and you are working already as a collective. Every now and then you come together and you plan your shows together, right?
100%. And then in addition to that, we also said the people that we bring onto the shows as guests, they can offer 3 in 1. They can offer many purposes to different shows. It will be important that we can share those guests across all the programs, depending on what the colleague is addressing. We have Coach Zeka Max, who is a coaching educator, but he's also a facilitator. He's also a life coach, yes, a sport business person, and comes to Brother Sydney's show, then they can talk about it. But when he comes to my show, he knows that he comes to my show to develop and guide, so to say.
Great stuff. So we'll come back to revisit that, but you basically saying to me that you have a strategy of alignment, but you also saying to us that you have already committed these people to become regulars in your shows. And you have given them, 100%. Every time when they go to each of your shows, they will know that your shows is development. That other one is more prominent, up-to-date programs. So that is fine. I think what you have done now is that you have aligned and you have got a strategy and you have refocused your programs. And going forward, there will not be overlaps. You will make sure that you work as a team. That is the best practice. Let's capture that, and then we'll come back to it. Because I know there's in another area on business side, there's also something like that emerging. Let's now go to Captain. Your show hasn't started, but you have been participating. Any short comment, please, because you haven't run your show, but you have been co-hosting with Patrick and Sydney.
Yes, I think they've already covered most of the things which we have done in terms of preparation. I think what I would just like to add is in terms of having to sit, especially with your family, and explaining what you are doing or what you are intending to do, and finding a space which you can be able to operate so that you can be able to produce, or you can be able to deliver a show undisturbed and so forth. So it's quite critical that besides other preparation, you work your schedule, because now it's no longer the same. You have to have a schedule for planning where you meet with your co-host, get to understand, research, even in terms of your guests, then make sure that you are slot, you are available. All the things which usually happens during that time, you ensure that you are not disturbed for that slot. That's what I would just like to share with the other team members.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Sakha, you were one of the early starters.
Yes. So first and foremost, the nice thing is that your nerves are not visible in online radio, so you can manage yourself and breathe nicely. So the other thing, for me, there were good and bad things. I had some learnings, among other things. I think one of the good things, I worked very well on my introduction. That one, I spent days on it and people commented on it, but I didn't work quite well on the ending side when it comes to my opening and closing the show. But what went through the show, what helped the most is that, like you said, with the guests, you need to research, know your guests. Because unlike the other host, we didn't get the chance to meet Bonang. So we just had to imagine what kind of a person he is, and how we would assess his personality was through like checking him out on YouTube where he has, or any webinars that he has attended that I recorded, and see what type of a person he is and what type of topics is he interested in, and how we can bring those topics into the show. So with that research, we also had to come up with a brief bio for him, even though on the day of the show we were able to get a bio, but we had to be flexible enough to incorporate that to what we had prepared for him. So yeah. So the other stuff was the breaks as well. So luckily the first part we were able to notice when we needed to go on a break, so that in the background we can direct the show and how it should. Okay, because we only met him 5 minutes before the show started. We did a meet and greet, get to know him. But throughout the show, we had to have breaks in between so that we can keep our guests engaged and then hear what we imagine they wanted to hear from the conversation with him. And from a preparation point of view, I met with my co-hosts about twice before the show. The first time we got to know each other, then we prepared how the show will go about, the structure, how we're gonna start, how long we allocate our starting time, and what our end, and the different subsections of the shows. Then the second meeting was when we had to go through what we had prepared and kind of like rehearse it. But with that, what I learned from that is that you would rehearse as part of the dry run, but you also need to be flexible enough so that during that interview, if things don't turn out the way you rehearse it, you don't get stuck. Because I almost fell into that trap during the first 30 minutes of that show, because I felt like the show was not going as I anticipated it to be, but I had to realize that it's not pre-recorded, so you need to be agile and keep moving with the show. So so that's my learnings and wrap up of the entire show.
Janae, you were the co-host. Do you want to add any pointers to what she has just said?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I wanted to say Seka is, when she was talking about her nerves, or the nerves don't show up, she was so calm and steady. She brought such a great foundation to the planning when we got to know each other. And we sat on Zoom with each other one afternoon and went back and forth on Microsoft Word with our notes to figure out how we were going to approach the show. I think she made some really great points about, for co-hosting, I think it helped for us to create synergy and some camaraderie between the two of us as we were, for us to have chemistry when we were hosting. But to know a little bit about the guests, it could be beneficial to know the guest or meet them before, but there could often be times where we don't know the guest. So I think we had one of the more challenging experiences and challenging not in a bad way, but in a good way. It's like a good challenge to have had someone who we probably weren't familiar with, and we had to go deep into our research. But we also did have someone who was very kind too. So our guest was able to be, as Seka mentioned, he was very agile as well, and we were able to, behind the scenes when we go on breaks, just discuss where we are, discuss the goals, discuss what we wanted to do for the next segment. So it's very much a movable. The show is constantly moving. It's not what we both learned. Even if you plan it out completely, things come up during the show, and we're able to to have that agility is really important. So I would say those were the things that we learned, and it was so helpful for us to sit online and go back and forth with each other and research our guests and make notes, and then share our final notes with each other and send them along to each other, and then be open, like she said, for the bio to come in and be able to put that into our introduction. So just having a working document is important.
Great stuff. And I must say that I observed a dynamic which was positive, in the sense that during the break, because you were still, when we break, it's only the live broadcast that breaks, but we are still connected and we can have a conversation. And I remember you guys had a discussion in terms of when you come back with your guest. When you come back, you had agreed with the guest how you are then going to tackle the second half, which I think is quite very powerful, because you are able to consult each other and the guest in terms of how do we come back and tackle this going forward, because of some things that might have come out that you want to follow up on, right?
Yes, that was helpful.
Yeah, that was helpful.
So we are saying that the best practice is here during the break. If you feel uncomfortable or there are certain things you want the guest to address, you then can have a conversation with the guest so that when you come back, you already know how you are going to tackle it. And I think that was powerful from my point of view, what I experienced. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to suggest that we take a short 5 minutes break, and then when we come back, I want Janae to continue because she also had her own show so that we can continue where you leave it. Is that fine? 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. You don't have to log off. You can remain connected. You can still remain connected. Just mute yourself. 5 minutes, we'll be back to proceed. Just mute yourself so that we don't hear you in the background.